This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers surrounding the Shadowhunter's world, specifically with the infernal devices. There is also mention of the mortal instruments, Shadowhunter's Academy, and the last hours.
Hi everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Lady Midnight by Kezzy Clare. This is book 1 of the Dark Artifices series. And okay, I'm going to start this off. We have read, Jess, you and I'm going to say 10 plus Shadowhunters books altogether, 10 plus at this point. Were you very happy and excited to see reoccurring character Church Cat?
What was one of the first things I texted you? I was like, I cannot wait till I can have pets, and I'm going to get a Persian cat, and I'm going to name him Church Cat, and then I'm going to have a puppy, and I'm going to name my puppy Syrinx, and I'm just going to be with all my little animals and never leave my apartment. I was so happy. He was like doing his own thing still all this time later.
Church Cat doing his own thing, but still doing the same thing, right? Being kind of annoying, being kind of mean, not giving any affection, and making you follow him.
He's
being a cat.
He does it he's doing everything at his will. He wants attention, but not when you want it, when he wants it, and just doing the cat thing. I love it.
I love it so much because through Church Cat, we get Gem, and through Gem, we get flashbacks, and through flashbacks, we get the Blackthorns. And of course, this book series is about the Blackthorns. There's a lot of Blackthorns. Jess, tell me all about the Blackthorns.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's probably best we just start with all the characters. There's a ton of them, whether people get frustrated with that or not. And all of them are technically reoccurring characters, but like you said, with the focus of the Blackthorns. We have Emma Carstairs, Julian Blackthorn. We have all of his siblings. You have Tiberius, Ty, who's also twins with Livvy, who is Livia. Octavian, who is referred to in the series as Tavvy, Drusilla, who will be referred to as Drew. You have Mark and Helen, who are his siblings, but for the purposes of this book, they also have to emphasize that they're his half-siblings because they're both half-fae, which plays a huge part into this part of the Chronicles, this series of the Dark Artifices. Then you'll have Kieran Kingston, who's an exiled Fae prince from the Unseelie Court, or is it the Seelie Court?
Unseelie Court.
Unseelie, because they're kind of worse than the Seelie, I think. But he's part of the Hunt, which is how he meets Mark Blackthorn, and they also love each other. Then you have the Blackthorn uncle, Arthur, who is running the LA Institute, Malcolm Fade, who's basically the SoCal warlock. You have Cristina Mendoza Rosales, who is up kind of doing her study abroad.
Her study abroad, yeah.
Her study abroad. She's in from Mexico, but she's doing her study abroad at the LA Institute. And you have Kit Harandel, which we'll totally dive into more. And Johnny Rook, who is also known as Jack, who is Kit's dad. But he's the Lost Harandel. He's the Lost Harandel that you said was going to be a payoff. But because I was follow your expertise once again in all things that you share with me. I knew this because you had me read a specific novella ahead of tackling this Lady Midnight, this first book. And then, of course, we have our returning characters that we love so much. We have Clary, Jace, Jem, Tessa, Magnus, Alec. There's mentions of Simon and Isabel because but they weren't actually there because they had their engagement party. So I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be back with everybody that we love. that with this world that just I didn't realize it was the hug that I needed this week.
You miss them, right? You miss them.
So much.
Okay, before we really get into this, obviously, like, disclaimer, I told Jess to read some stories from Ghost of the Shadow Market because very important world building before we get into these books. We need to have this background because the payoff is in the first, like, fucking chapter of this book, right? It's immediate payoff. We have Kit Herondale. So it is a disclaimer to everybody listening that Jess and I, are going in with the knowledge of who and what Kit Herondale is, right? We know a little bit more than what a casual reader of this book would know, right? We know Kit's heritage and why people are looking for him. We know this.
Yeah, and I think it was good to know that because then I could focus on the other parts of the plot in the book, which was one of the things that I told you. I said I didn't even focus on that because I knew that there was going to be a payoff. I knew what was happening. I knew who he was. So I just kind of got to vibe with it and focus on everything else.
And who is he?
He is a Herondale, which also just like breaks my heart because here you have Tessa knowing who he is, but she saves him. His mom died because the Fae were after her. His dad died because the demons attacked them through the floorboards of their house. And Emma, because she kind of knew who he was, she's like, look, here's my number, whether you want to talk to me or not. If there's ever an emergency, you got it. He reached out to Emma. Emma showed up. Everybody showed up. And by the time she showed up, Tessa and Jem were already there. So what a scene. But it's like the other part of the scene, because we had already known from the novella Through Blood and Through Fire, their optics and their POV. So now we're seeing it through Kit's POV and what he's going through, and Emma's a little bit more. And it's a nice little end caps because you hear about Kit in the beginning and you see it come through fruition at the end, and he's like dabbled in between. But again, I would say like it was a great to just knowing who he was, so I could just focus on everything else.
And what is his heritage? Why are they after him?
Because he's half Fae and half Shadowhunter.
Yeah, he's the heir. He is the heir to Fairy, more or less. Like he's dangerous. They are after him. And this is like it's such a great plot point, but like a casual reader would not know this. They would just know that Kit is Johnny Rook's like biggest secret, and we get that in the very beginning because this book opens with a cold open into the Shadow Market. And when I tell you, like, okay, like I love Shadowhunters, obviously. The Shadow Market is itself a reoccurring character. And every time we're in a Shadow Market, I have that feeling of, I know the rules to the Shadow Market. I'm home. I know exactly what to expect. You know, it's one of those things.
Do you think if you came across this Shadow Market, you could just go in and you could hold your own?
No, I think I'd be robbed. I think it'd be robbed blind very easily. Yeah, and very quickly too. But I just love this cold open. I think even without the knowledge of who Johnny and Kit are and their situation and like why the things Johnny says to Kit, are funny, why not to go here, don't do this, all of that stuff. But it's just so, it's like establishing, okay, this is where we're at. This is the LA Shadow Market. It's a little bit different. These are the rules. And then here are some Shadow Hunters coming in. I just like that a lot because I love Emma. She is one of my favorite, female characters in Shadowhunters. I just love her. And I remember feeling mixed about her in book 6 of the Mortal Instruments, but that's because that was in and of itself a cold open of the Blackthorns and Emma. So you get used to them there, but here I just love her. Like she's 17, she's on a revenge mission. you know, she's had this like platonic pair-by relationship with Julian on her end since she was 12. Like, you know, everything bad that could happen has happened to the Blackthorns and to Emma. And she's funny, she's strong, she's capable. I love her.
She's a good character. I think slowly, because we haven't really visited the mortal instruments aside from like the Infernal Devices discussions. And since 2021, that was really the last time we were really deep diving into them and deep diving into the Emma Carstairs and crew. But you've shared with me a ton of fan art since then, or I'll send you one. I go, I think this is Emma. I have not read the captions because I don't want spoilers. And I'll be like, but she looks like she could kick my ass. So she's obviously a badass. And she is. I like her. And I like that one of the things that they discuss in the book, or maybe like even Christina says, she goes like, you and even though we know how I feel about like two halves of a whole, I hate that. Christina does talk about her and Julian and being parabatai, and how like Emma is like, she's about action, she's about doing, and Julian can be a little bit more like thoughtful. I don't want to say reserved because he's not reserved, but can be kind of like he's he's her balance, and she also gives him that permission to be like, okay, I'm going to do this, it's just a good balance for them, and she does it. She just always, she says she's going to do something. Whether she's getting permission to or not, it's happening. So like even when she gets like quote unquote caught when she comes back, she's like, but like, did you really think I wasn't going to do it? Like, how, like, let's pretend you don't know me for a second, you know, pretend you. So I love her fierceness in her tenacity. Like, she wasn't going to let anybody tell her not to trust her gut feeling.
Yeah, and rightly so, because she was right.
She was right.
She was right. But in like a shitty way too. Because like she was right, Emma. So like the plot of this book is revenge, more or less. Like there are murders. They match the murder of Emma's parents 5 years ago, and they're trying to like match them up, and then there's shenanigans in the way. That is more or less the plot of this book. But oh my gosh,
it doesn't make any sense to be linear.
No, it doesn't make any sense to be. It doesn't make any sense to be linear. But like, I feel so bad. And Jess, you know, I've talked about this with you too. The Blackthorns break my heart. Every single one of them. I love them all individually. I love them all as a family very much. I love Julian for a lot of like different reasons, and I love Emma. I love everybody, Karen, everyone. But the Blackthorn family unit and how different they all are, but how strong they are as a whole, and how that is illustrated like several times throughout the book, how they all, you know, there's a problem, they all separate to do it, and then they all come back and share all the information, and then they all go out, and, you know, I really enjoy that as a family dynamic. And also, I want to kind of start off this conversation by listing out some of the tropes. The end is fake dating. The middle is forbidden love. And the beginning, I'm going to say, is not, people are going to fight me on this, it is not friends to lovers. It is not friends to lovers. Julian was never just friends with Emma. Julian has been in love with Emma his entire life. His entire life. So like it would be friends to lovers on her end, but that's not the trope. So like that's not It was never just platonic from each of them. Like even if it was even if it felt for him at one point that it was unrequited, it was still like that's my thing with friends to lovers. It's always like we were just friends. It's always platonic, and then boom, it's not platonic anymore. Like if I just, that's not the trope for me, but that's not the case here. No. That's basically what we're saying. Oh no. Julian's been all in his like entire life, which makes the whole thing like so sad. Okay. I want to talk about the plot. Cassie Clare, I'm on record by saying that I love the way that she and Holly Black do fairy and, depict fairy and all of the fairy characters. I especially love it here. I love Mark. Mark Blackthorn has my whole heart. And his descriptions of the wild hunt and being with Kieran and like Gwyn and riding through the sky and like all of those descriptions of fairy, the fountains that run with blood, all of that is like beautifully horrific. But the tragedy of Mark Blackthorn, right? Taken at 16, given to the wild hunt, time is different in fairy. He doesn't know how long he was gone. He does not know that.
He stops counting, but the only thing he doesn't stop is like naming the stars after his siblings because he doesn't want to like not remember them. Like, the tragedy of it all. And
then he's told that they're dead, right? Like it's just, oh my God, it's just so.
And that they don't love him. Like they gave him, like, I mean, they were being traditional. I'll say they weren't being fae. They were being traditional fairy. Just kind of, I can't say that they were lying. But to them, you are in this world now. They are dead to you. Kind of, that would be like a fairy loophole kind of thing.
This like a whole situation. So like that is all happening. Like Mark is riding with the Black Hunt that entire time. So from the end of the Dark Ward in like 2008 or something, this is 5 years later. It is specifically, they say it like 5 years later. So like Emma is 17, Julian is like 17, 18. Like they're all 5 years older, Clary and Jace, all of them. So Mark has been up there at least 5 years like on Earth. So who knows in fairy how long that has been for him. So that is all happening in the background. And on like in LA, our like situation is that the bodies are turning up. They're matching Emma's parents and we have to like figure out what is going on. And there's a murder mystery that happens. And I really enjoy that. And then bam, comes Mark Blackthorn in the fairy delegation. I love this fairy delegation. The different horses. I love, and I'm bringing this up, the shenanigans and the plots, because in a traditional like detective procedural show, right? Like the bad guy is always like the first person that you encounter. Mm-hmm. The first person that they encounter here is Erelon in the septum, like whatever, the club, and he's robbing people. He's the first person that Christina and Emma encounter, and he was the bad guy, more or less, with Malcolm all along.
I was going to say with Malcolm because
they work together.
Yeah, but I guess I just focused so much on Malcolm. I think I just like I don't want to say hyperfixated. That's the wrong word. But I think I focused so much on Malcolm because it wasn't just the women. Like it impacted the Blackthorns. It impacted Emma. Like he killed Emma's family. He's been in on it since the Mortal Instruments, obviously, because we're going back now. Because then he's like, if I throw the bodies in the water, they're going to think it's Sebastian when he's taking over.
Yep.
Like holy fuck.
Yep. It's heartbreaking.
And I mean, and we were discussing about this a little bit before we started recording. Talk about like revenge is a dish best served cold, because he did not forget. He played the long game. It has been over 200 years, because they say 200 years. So if we're in 2012 now, it was back in 1812, because the Blackthorns killed the love of his life. And he's like, oh, and people were just kind of like stringing him along on a wild goose chase until he actually finds out the truth, what happened to the Annabelle Blackthorn. That she's dead, and there is no like, and he's had to live with this pain and also revenge for 200 years, and he played it, and he played it well.
He played it so well, because Malcolm is the High Warlock of like
Southern California.
Yeah, Southern California. And he though is like, he's besties with the besties, right? With Katarina, and he's up there with Magnus, and he's with Tessa, and he's a little bit with Ragnar in the day. Like, these are his people. These are his friends. These are good people.
And we know these people. I mean, Magnus even comes to visit earlier in the book, and I sent in my little whole, like, scrolodex of notes to you where he goes, don't you have your own like humans to focus on in New York? Like, these are mine. So I completely over my head.
Well, I like that you bring that up because Magnus is the one that tells Emma about ley lines and convergences and stuff and ley lines. And at that meeting where Emma and Julian go to visit Malcolm up at his house, I loved the description of that house with like the crystal staircase, and the movie execs were in there being like, magic our movie. Like, I really like that. So we get Magnus there, you know, we get a little, as you said, at misdirection, because Malcolm, because we know now that Malcolm is the villain, he does not help this investigation at all. He provides almost no information. And he says, right here, he goes, don't trust me, I will let you down. Right there. But the thing with Malcolm, though, is like, when it's such a like silly scene though, but like when they're watching Notting Hill and he's like sobbing watching Notting Hill and he's talking about like love and everything. And then Julian goes on his little monologue about what love actually is. And everyone is like stunned into silence. I was also stunned into silence. I was like, Julian, damn, sir.
I know.
Ooh.
And then everybody was like, and then he realized, because you knew he was talking about Emma, like you just knew it, and everybody's just like, and then he like leaves the room at some point, and even the siblings are like, we're so fucked when he falls in, like when he gets a girlfriend, because that will be his like sun, moon, and stars.
Yes.
And like, you know, and then of course Ty is like, wait, are we really never gonna see him again? Like, because he takes things like literally like at face value when you say certain things.
Oh my gosh,
I love Ty.
Oh my gosh, yes, we absolutely love Ty. How do you feel about Mark and Emma? Like Mark and Emma have a connection, right? And it's like a physical connection, kind of, but I see it as like a shared kind of energy, right? They're both wild in a way.
And he says it too. He goes, I saw you in the beach when it was like lightning or thunder or something. And I could see you just wanting to be in, like, just be part of that energy. And it, like in my head, I thought of the scene of The Craft when they're all on the beach and it's just like storming and like, not in like, just in a fun way, you know,
yeah.
when a storm is incoming kind of thing, you know, like our like Florida afternoons and you're just like hanging on the beach. I don't want to say they understand or share traumas, but like there's something there. And I like that their platonic flirtatiousness. It reminds me of different relationships that you might have with people where you're just flirty for no other reason but to flirt, where it's still strictly platonic and you know it's completely harmless because that's all it will ever be. I think it's fun, and I think there's always been that boundary for them too. They never thought anything outside of it.
And Julian says that Mark flirts with everybody in the way that fairies flirt with people, just like a courtly kind of like gentry way. That means nothing. So I love it, but I bring it up because we have another like flying motorcycle moment with Emma and Mark. And I really like it because obviously we have, my problem with Shadowhunters is like, I have my vision of what it was in the books, what I want it to be. And then like the 2 times that I've seen it on screen and then like what those images are, like the show and the movie, and like kind of overlay those on like the stuff that I already have and then like compress it. It's just
you're trying
lot.
To make your own. Because wait, we just watched the Mortal Instruments a couple weeks ago. They don't have a flying scene. They go on a motorcycle, but they don't like fly on the motorcycle.
No, they do in the TV show.
Oh, okay. Oh. I feel like that could be like that could go kind of awry.
Yeah, so that image and then like what happened, it's just a lot going on. So I can very much clearly see, just like I can clearly see the shadow market, I can clearly see Mark and Emma on this fairy steed, like going to the convergence and like fighting the mantis demons, and, like getting all of this stuff. I'm bringing this up because we're getting to our first like major kind of like, something is not right situation. And that is when we're like Diego creeping, fucking shoots
Perfect
Julian.
Diego.
Perfect Diego. I like Perfect Diego. I like how they tease Perfect Diego. And that is really wonderful. And I like how Perfect Diego's like, I wish you wouldn't call me that. It's just so funny. Like, I love it. But Perfect Diego, I mean, this is all the plot. Perfect Diego shoots Julian with a poisoned arrow that he bought from Johnny Rook, that Johnny Rook had saved the poison from him distilling it from the flowers from Malcolm for the followers. That is the whole plot right there in a line for you.
Thank you so much, because that was good. That I have that as a note that I wanted to ask you about. Because Malcolm says something later in the book, and where he goes, because Julian survived the poison, and he was like, he was not supposed to. But then, like, Julian kept saying, like, we have, like, being healed by your parabatai is a completely different level. So is it really that it was the parabatai, like the rune given by the parabatai, because she just kept doing it over and over again? Or was it because even though they had yet to admit to each other?
It's the second one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's the first, something's wrong, because that should not have worked. And Malcolm is, as you're saying, like, she should be dead.
But we know about the parabatai and the runes, and even though they hadn't admitted to, I mean, this is, okay, we said it's not going to be linear. Okay, so Jem says that runes created between parabatai, when it is like a deep, romantic, true, requited love, is this whole other thing. And like, it's not supposed to happen because of power and greed, and that's why they don't tell anybody. But it's like, it could be this beautiful, wonderful thing that obviously can, you spiral into madness, basically. And that's why it healed, because even though they weren't admitting to each other, but they both easily loved, like, they both loved each other, like in love with each other, not just like, I love you like a brother.
And in this sequence, like, Julian is like bleeding out in the back of in the car. Emma's like in his lap, and she's like doing things,
straddling him.
Yeah, like straddling him. They're like both like really aware of the situation. And the Aratzis aren't working, and Emma's like, I need to call the Silent Brothers. Like, we can't do this. And Julian's like, I trust you. Like, you will fix this. And everything that he just keeps saying, you're my parabatai. And she's like, it's not working. And like, she even like says, like, she even 911's Livvy at one point. Yeah. And she was like, I need you to come here. Ah. Yeah. And so when Julian says, like, I believe that you will fix me, her, like, Emma's inner monologue is like all of the happy, like, wonderful moments she's ever felt for Julian. She's like thinking of all of that and is like pushing it with all of her might, like, into his skin. And then the rune that is there is like a weird color, and it like burns weird. So that's like the first, like, oh no, that's the first one of those. But then, kind of immediately after that scene, we get our first scene with Mark and Kieran, and they're the first like clear indication that they are in love. They are like deeply in love, but it is a fairy love. A fairy as in like this situation of fairy. And I love them so much, because you can just tell like where it came from and like how it happened. And we get all those wonderful flashbacks. And I do feel like the flashbacks kind of are the star of this book, because it gives us a really beautiful context for everything that's happening. We haven't even talked about Arthur. But we get Mark and Kieran and like all of their relationship. And then a little bit after this, we have this quote that Christina says to Emma, and it's just something that I think about a lot. And it is when Emma realizes that like her runes shouldn't have been able to heal Julian. Like, something is wrong. She has felt different about Julian ever since he got back from England. He's been weird about her. Like, it's weird. Everything is weird. And they're in the car, and Christina goes like, Emma, you look like someone who has realized something. And it is just like, she has.
Well, and Emma isn't like, even if she has, she's been in denial about it. And I like, even at the beginning, Julian, was it with Malcolm? Yeah, it was either with Malcolm or Magnus. I can't remember right now. Where he's like, did you tell her yet? Like, when he came back from
Malcolm.
Yeah. So he's like, no, I'm not going to. And I was like, oh, he's asking about like if he's told her he loves her. And then I mean, he's always loved her. I mean, we hear that later on and when he's confessing and all this stuff. But Emma clearly has her aha moment, like, oh, my best friend just came back from summer camp and damn, boy's looking
He's
good.
hot.
I mean, he is. I was already like,
Ooh.
I texted you, I go, Julian sounds so hot. And then boom was the fan art. I was like, I was right. I
He's
just like,
fucking gorgeous.
he's beautiful. And she's like, fuck. She's like yelling at her, like, you know, she's like, my body. She's like, you know that little feeling of butterflies in your stomach? Like, it's my whole body. Can you fucking stop? Like, can we just not? Now is not the time. But it is. She can't help it. And she just finally gives into it eventually. And even then, she's like, okay, but we're not going to say anything. We're not going to, I mean, it's forbidden. It's slow burn, but not that slow because we get some stuff in between.
We do get some stuff in between, but like in between all of that, we have the lottery and the lottery situation. And the Cassie Clare writes a fantastic party dance scene with tension because this dance scene with Emma and Julian, and he's like staring at her, right? And he's like, I would paint your hair, but it's like all of these different colors. And like, and he's like, he's almost there. He's almost breaking.
And well, and not just him, like, because at one point her, like, Emma and Mark are dancing and then Julian's getting, I mean, I want to be at every one of her dance scenes because, I mean, we have the iconic ball scene with Will and Tessa in the Clockwork Prince book 2. Yeah. Where you're just like, ah! You know, you just love it so much because you're constantly rooting for and that's the thing, like that Cassie does a really good job at is you're constantly rooting for whoever she's writing on the page. So I remember when we were reading The Infernal Devices, every time it was like initially it was like every time there was Jem, I was like, Tessa and Jem. And then Will would come on stage. He would come like on the page and I'd be like, oh, Will and Tessa. Like I couldn't, you're just rooting for happiness and love and just, you know, everybody's going through so much shit in these books. You just want somebody to have some semblance of some positivity.
There isn't though. There is no positivity because after the lottery, right? So we have everything that's going on with the lottery. There's a secret society cult that is operating kind of out of the shadow market, and you get an invitation. That's, you know, dead body. They found the wallet. They found the ticket. They go. These are, you know, everybody's there. They're all dressed up. The lotto, a name gets picked, and then that person has 2 days to murder someone. That's what it is. That's what it is. Then it's magic and everybody gets like stronger or whatever. But in reality, they all die and get their hands cut off. Okay. Moving on though, after the lotto, we have the discovery, Julian and Emma go to Rook's and Kit is in the basement with the first, like, we have that little moment where Kit and Ty meet each other. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed the tension of Julian just like kind of panicking, right? And Emma being like, all of a sudden Ty was in the basement and it was like the Institute just slammed home right in front of me and I didn't know what to do. I really enjoyed that. And I liked all of that interaction. All of this moving to, though, this iconic kitchen fight. I love this kitchen fight. I don't know if this stuck out to you, but Julian and Emma left Mark in charge of everybody when they went to go to Johnny Rook's, and like Ty was in the back seat, and they get back and like Tavvy's in the sugar and like the stove is on fire and there's ketchup on the walls and everything. And this is where my love for Julian kicked into overdrive, right? Because like I absolutely can understand the feeling of being like walking on a tightrope, right? And like, you are so disciplined and balanced. And like the kitchen, they say over and over again, it's Julian's kitchen. He taught himself how to make food when he was like a child. He made all of these meals when he was a child. He burned himself doing all of this stuff. It's impeccable at all times. So like the one time he feels that he can leave somebody else in charge.
Who's older than him.
Who's older than him.
Brother. Yeah.
Yeah. And who he has these deep rooted like expectations of like, my older brother can take care of me. Like he can take a little bit of this deep burden off of me, and he cannot.
That's what it is. Like he's just like, he's exhausted. He has been raising a family since he was 12, and he has been running the institute at the same time while kind of, I guess, trying to get his own education in a way, even though like Shadowhunters basically are homeschooled at this point, because his uncle Arthur, who's supposed to be running the institute, has gone mad. You know, they say it in the book because of like the fairy just breaking his mind. They kind of infiltrated, and I can't remember the details at the second. But he's had to kind of cover for his uncle too. So his uncle's kind of been upstairs, hyperfixating on history. They talk about that over and over again, about like Greek and classical mythology. And he's kind of been doing it all. So he's had to play like judge, jury, executioner for the LA Institute and his family, be both brother and mother and father for all his siblings. He is mentally and physically exhausted. Like, of course he would hope that somebody for a couple hours while he did this, does like the other things that he wants to do, trust, like, can you be here? And, even Livvy is like, we've done it before, like, we're older. And he's like, it's different circumstances. And he walks into like, this is exactly why I didn't, I was just hoping I could count on you for one point in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes what Julian says to Emma a little bit later so much more painful, because he's like, not you, Emma. Like, I don't have to take care of you. Like, I can just be with you and we can take care of each other. Like, I don't have to be that for you. And it just makes it that much more painful. But immediately after this kitchen fight, Emma pieces out. Emma fucks off. She lies to everybody because she gets the convergence alert, and she goes to the convergence. She goes in, she goes out into the ocean. She gets sucked out, which is, I understand this, having a like deep-seated fear of the ocean, because I have this too, being sucked out into like the deep ocean. I would just die. I would panic and die, especially because she can see the demons like in the deep, dark ocean. And they say that over and over again, that there's demons down there. I'd be shitting myself and I would drown and die. I hope that would be fast. All of this to say that we get sexy time in a Cassie Clare book in the first book.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, granted, they're not Herondales, so
no, they're not Herondales. They don't. Well,
they don't
to
make
be
$3
fair,
or $6. But...
Well, I guess to be fair, this is their like second book, because they were children in. Yeah, but I mean, when we get sexy time here, it is fade to black. This is why it was fade to black.
But I liked it. It was so like but like this goes back to conversations that we've had in previous episodes, that you don't need to have anything a fade to black is so fine, and like I think it's perfect for them. I mean, initially they were just kissing, and then they were in like different positions, and then he had his shirt off, and I was like, okay, maybe they're just having like a hot and heavy makeout session, until she talked about the birth control the next day. And I was like, oh, they definitely. But then all she said was that your first kiss? And I was like, that's all you're talking about? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the insecurity that Emma feels right after that too is also just like so fucking real, because they have the conversation of like, I don't love you like that. Like, we can't love each other like this. We can, but he's basically saying, like any 17-year-old boy, we can fuck, but I can't like you like that. Because if I like you like that, that's what the law is about. The law doesn't like, we can still fuck. That is exactly what he's saying there. And she's looking at him like, what?
I'm pretty sure that means you shouldn't be having sex here.
She's like, that is not what this is about. My dude, my bro, like, no. It's too funny. But he's like, yeah, no.
But we can totally.
Oh my God. But it was just like, oh my God, Julian, like, of course you're going to be such a dude about this. But I do also very much like, it was verbal consent, right? Mm-hmm. He demanded verbal consent. I mean, he asked verbal consent. And then afterwards, there was the talk about safe sex. It was, I was wrong. I didn't think about this. I was out of my mind. I screwed up. And Emma was like, yeah, but like Clary is a bad bitch. And like,
Clary is like one of the first things she does. My first role as Shadowhunter with I can make runes for whatever I want. She was like, they were talking about practical things. They were like breathing underwater, or they were like running. And I was like, I can't imagine. Like, I used to be a runner, and now running like out of breath in like 2.5 seconds. So I was like, ooh, that's a good one too for a Shadowhunter. Then she talks about, like, when Clary came up with the birth control rune, I was like, bestie, that's our girl.
Free healthcare for everybody. Like, yo, all about it. No, Clary doesn't fuck around. She's a modern woman.
But I will add to that not only, like, yeah, she has the birth control rune, but then Emma, like, adds on to that, and she goes, and I know we both, because it's not like a STD rune, like anti-STD rune. It is just a birth control rune. So she adds on to that, and she's like, and we both don't have anything. Like, we've been tested. But, like, obviously she knows it's also his first time. So she's like, I know you don't have anything.
Yeah. And, well, that's part of Emma's insecurity as well, because she's also, who else is around for him? Like nobody. He has no opportunity to do anything with anyone.
Well, and like even the siblings talk about that too. Like when does he have time to date? Oh, because they were talking about like pairing him with Christina. And they were like, he's been raising us and running this institute for like the last billion years. Like, wouldn't they be a good match? And then, and then Emma's like claws out. No. Oh, gosh. From the convergence, though, we get some like flashbacks. We get some memories. We get a bunch of stuff here. We get Arthur giving a little bit of help for those that are older. Very important. And then we get fucking Mark running his mouth at Christina. Mark cannot keep his mouth closed in front of a beautiful woman. He goes, oh, you want the deepest, darkest secrets of fairy? Let me casually tell them to you in a nonchalant conversation. Hey, the queen, if you steal her crown, she loses all of fairy. If you steal Gwen's cloak, he can't be head of the wild hunt anymore. Just casual things. I love a dumb boy.
Dumb, so dumb. But then Queen Christina, comes up with the translation for this whole plot going on with the writing on the bodies and the writing at the convergence and all this stuff. First the flame and then the flood. In the end, it is Blackthorn blood. That is a fairy rhyme that they used to taunt Mark with in the Wild Hunt because they like tortured him, and he knew that. And then Christina put it together with the translation because Christina's so great. She's like, when English isn't your first language, snap, snap, snap. You understand translations. It was just like, yeah, you tell him.
Because it's not, because you learn, and that's not the first time that they talk about translations. I mean, granted, they use it in a different example, but like when they're talking about Ty and how he takes things like literally in certain conversations, and then growing up, they had to like show what analogies were, or like, I can't think of the word, but expressions where you say like it's raining cats and dogs, like it doesn't actually mean cats and dogs are falling out of the sky. So you have like another example in the book of like how translations aren't always what they say. And you also find out about it. I mean, if you read the novella, that we were talking about, that through blood and through fire, when they're doing the riddle translation about crows, but it's really, what's another word for crow? Rook. And that's how we get to Johnny Rook.
It's so good, right? It's so good. Oh my gosh. I'm skipping over like so much stuff. But I really like Diego and like all of this stuff, the followers that come to the Institute after they save Sterling, all of this like plot stuff.
I feel like that's going to also maybe have a payoff. I don't know, because like we find out this whole backstory on Chris, not this whole backstory, but understand, like she keeps saying like, you know what? And I really like Christina and Emma's friendship. Like they'll both say like, do you want to talk about it? No. Cool. They know, like, and we've talked about this before about like, they're there when you're ready to talk. And then, you know, same thing happened with Emma. Emma's like, I don't want to talk about it. And then like 2.5 seconds later, she goes, I slept with Julian. And she's like, I thought we weren't talking about it, but I guess we're talking about it. But then later you have Christina. She was like, look, here's some backstory. And she tells her about Diego and Jaime, that they were conspiring against her. And then I do appreciate Christina where she goes, I overheard this, and you know what? This is why I didn't answer any of your calls or your texts, because once you're dead to me, why would I answer a dead person's text? I was like, bitch, she is my friend. I love this. This is queen shit energy. So I love that. And then Diego was like, yeah, but did you hear me respond? And she goes, but I didn't hear you stick up for me either.
Yeah, but
and
I heard
was
nothing.
Like,
I
loved that. He's like, oh, well, I was going to. It's like, fuck you. I mean, yeah, granted they kissed, whatever, that's going to come out later. But there's more to the story there, I have to assume. So Christina's a bad bitch. I love her. I do. I like her a lot. I really liked her.
Christina's a bad bitch. That scene that you're talking about, Christina says specifically, intentions are nothing. He was like, well, I intended to tell you. She's like, intentions are nothing. Fuck you. Like, you know, you are done. You are done. But they do say that he's like gorgeous and charming and like,
I'm sure he is.
And like very attentive to her. So like, I understand a kiss in like the moment. After the followers take Sterling, kill Sterling, take his hands, come to the Institute, all that stuff, Malcolm saves the day. After all of that, I want to talk about Julian finally telling Mark and Emma about everything that he's been doing for the past 5 years and everything that has happened with Arthur. Because we get here, I think it's a great scene because Julian's like, don't interrupt me. If you interrupt me here, I will not be able to finish. Like, I've got to get all of this out right now. And I really respect that and appreciated that. And he really does. He lets it out. And he says like this, he had to make an adjustment in his heart because Arthur like would not take care of him. It was like another disappointment. Like he realized that like Arthur would not take care of him. He went up there. He saw that Arthur was like cutting himself to like let out the voices in his blood. Like he realized right then but then later he says here, he's like, I don't hate Uncle Arthur. Like, this is not his fault. And if you go back and you read Shadowhunter Academy, Arthur and Andrew, their story is in Shadowhunter Academy, so we understand exactly what happened to him, which is horrible.
Is that the one where Simon comes across he comes across Arthur Blackthorn, right? He
comes across Helen.
Oh, Helen, because they're doing flashbacks.
Yeah.
Okay. Part of that conversation, that's when Julian even says it was that moment that he realized that he was going to have to love his siblings twice as much, and because he didn't want them to ever feel anything that he was going through with these expectations. I mean, it's it's childhood trauma. It's valid, expectations of, of parental figures in your life and certain, expectations that we inherently have as children, and he's not receiving them at 12 years old. He, like I said, he became the head of the household and the institute. Like, of course, he's like, if I don't get this out now, I need to like word vomit everything for the last 5 years.
And not just that either. Julian says that in the beginning, he hated Uncle Arthur. He hated that he had this responsibility. He hated that he had to do this. He hated that he couldn't tell anybody. He hated his life, pretty much. Like, he was just going to live for his family and Emma. But we get that here in this scene, Julian says, like, I don't hate Uncle Arthur anymore. This is not his fault. He didn't do this. I hate the Clave. I hate the Clave for everything that they're doing. I hate the law. Of course, we have the scene of Julian going to read the law books in the library, and the page like opens to the parabatai law, and it's like worn, and he reads it over and over again, like, you can't fall in love with your parabatai. Like, oh my God.
But nothing is telling him why, which was and now we have the why, and she couldn't tell him because of everything that Jem and Tessa told him. Like, you think you're going to, like, that's going to work? No, it makes it stronger. This is how you have to do it. And they know from firsthand because that's how Will did it.
Oh my God, that's how Will did it. Oh my God, Will Hartnett. Okay. Moving on. We've got everybody at the Institute. Everybody's there. Tavvy has his moment to shine here. I love this. Tavvy is always in the corner. He's always listening. Tavvy is not okay. Tavvy is 7. He's very small. He's too skinny. His skin can't take runes. He has nightmares every night. He's very, very much still a child. He's like much younger than what he actually is. He is traumatized. But Tavvy comes in and he has a Shadowhunters kids book because he's always listening. He was like, yo, I read this. I know this. You are all stressed in here. I have all of these answers for you. and he does. He gets Lady Midnight. And he's like, Lady Midnight, yeah, like the club you went to, right? Like
they said the thing.
Like the thing, the club. And there's the Iron Castle, the King of Fairy. You know, it's not in the gray book or the white or the red. It's in the black volume of the dead, you know. And then we get Kieran. Kieran is there. Kieran's chiming in. Mark is chiming in. They're like, these are clear instructions. You know, this is an instruction list on how to do this spell, but it's in like fairy, in the fairy language. So, you know, it's got to be translated, but Blackthorn blood is there. Like, we have all of this major plot. And like from there on out, it is very heavily, I think, kind of plot. I'm moving on to Emma's whipping. Yeah. This is where I'm going. Cause major plot points. Like, we don't want to be here forever. Like, major plot points.
I know.
Like Emma's whipping.
Everything feels like a major plot point sometimes.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, everything feels like a major plot point. But like Emma's whipping I teared up for Emma's whipping. The descriptions of it, woo.
I was upset for everybody because because we also know from earlier in the book, Mark says, I don't want any more scarring from them. I will not take any more runes. I don't want any more scarring. Like, he's traumatized from his time in fairy. So here he is about to get more scars that he already was like, I cannot do this again.
Well, and it's not just like, I cannot do this again. It's like Mark wouldn't survive that mentally. Julian and Emma are tied. So, like, one's going to feel it, the other's going to feel it, right? Like, Gwyn respects that magic. Erelon's in on it. Erelon is in the plot with Malcolm. Erelon is, like, organizing this. And Kieran is jealous and just wants Mark to come home and, like, be with him. So, like, and he's purely Fae. Like, all 3 of them are purely Fae. So, like, I understand his like, reasoning there. Like, I get it. But, like, So Julian steps in for Emma, or Julian steps in for Mark. And I was already just like, oh God, oh no, because then the kids are going to see Julian. Like, the kids cannot see Julian like that. And then Emma, and I was like, oh no. But then she knocks out Julian, and then she takes it, and she gets like up to 7 before she blacks out. And she's supposed to get, I think, like 20.
Yeah.
20 lashes with a silver whip. And Erelon says that, Shadowhunters are too naive to know how to trust. Oh my God. It's just so.
Yeah, she passed, like, because she does the spell on Julian, and they're like, oh, you think that you can just have him let him pass out and then he can take the whips. That's not how this is going to go. And it worked out. However, she just didn't want him to be in pain. Yeah. So she wound up taking all the lashings.
Well, and that goes back to how Emma sees herself and values herself within the family unit too, because she does say earlier in the book that she's the one that, is having to prove herself. She's not a Blackthorn. She is kind of on the outside, so she has to prove for her place. And then after she's whipped and she wakes up and stuff, she says no, it's me though. Everyone expects for me to be hurt and to fall down, and I'm the one. I know, right?
I keep talking.
She's like, so Julian, you're the one that has to keep us together, but I'm the one that gets hurt, and everyone expects that I get hurt. So that's why it had to be me. It could never be Mark. It never could be Mark. It was oh my God. But then Kieran and Mark have their fight and basically break up here. They have a full on fight. It was oh my gosh, so crazy. But I need to talk about Emma waking up, Julian having a complete breakdown and taking her to his locked studio. Because we get Julian's famous line. My last secret, Emma, if my heart was a canvas, every square inch of it would be painted over with you. And he has thousands of pictures of Emma in that locked room. And she's like, but you stopped painting me when I was 12. And he was like, I learned to hide it. It was too obvious. I learned to hide it. You are here.
And he was everybody else was he didn't he make a comment everybody else could see it?
Yeah. He's there was no way. Yeah. There was no way that anyone could see this and not know that I was completely in love with you. Oh my God.
And even before then, when she's really respecting his boundaries. He's I want to show you something. And he goes to bring her to the room. And she's like, are you sure? Because she's always respected. That's the one place in the entire institute that's his safe space. And she wanted to respect that because he knew he was in, everything else was off limits.
Oh, God.
How would you, okay, I have a question because I made a note at this part where I was if it was a serial killer murder board, this is creepy. But this is not the case. This is Julian. This is really romantic.
But Emma had the serial killer board in her closet.
Right.
So balance.
So if it were you, and I guess it also depends if the feelings are reciprocated, because if they aren't reciprocated, you're cringe. But if you're just walked into a room and you're oh, we're just friends. But how would you feel if you just walked in and you found out that Sam in his closet in his office has this whole thing of
I think I'd be flattered. I don't even care if it was a serial killer situation. It was made of gum.
Flattered.
I'd be flattered. If it was a Hey Arnold situation in the closet, I would still be flattered. Whatever, you took the time. I'm honored. That's great. But in this situation, especially because there have been comments over and over and over again about Julian, why don't you draw Emma? Why don't you draw Emma? You used to draw Emma. Why, and it's brushed off. And he's just oh, but when he's doing the tarot cards, they're aren't you going to do Emma? And he's no. Because his whole, and of course, it's an analogy, right? His locked, because Julian does, he compartmentalizes where, he has to. So the deepest part of him, his soul is his studio, but the secret part of his soul is Emma locked inside of his studio, right?
I like him so much.
He's wonderful. He's wonderful. He's also scary, but he's wonderful. But then we get the whole forbidden love, and Julian says I used to fantasize that we were married and that these were our kids, and you kind of think that's kind of the only way that he could deal with it. Honestly, you're 12. I get it, right? How else are you going to deal with that? And he's I used to think yeah, and later on he really breaks down, but here they almost get caught, getting a little hot and heavy. Oh my God, it is just so crazy. But then next giant plot point is Emma fucking finds out that it's Malcolm. Jess, Malcolm took you by surprise.
I am not a smart person.
You
we
are
know
a smart
this,
person.
because of course I read the novella, and at the end of the novella they talk about finding Malcolm's body, and I didn't pick up on that. I was just focused on the Gem and Tessa of it all, and then when I came to this book, I saw Malcolm's name again, and I was like, why do I know that name? I don't remember, but like with all things with Cassie Clare and her Easter eggs, I knew it was going to like get ironed out at some point, because there's, again, like you had said, we've read over 10 books at this point. So many names are intertwined because everybody knows everybody for centuries. So I did not make that connection. So I just kept reading, la-da-da-da-da, and then the fact that, I mean, Malcolm really took me by surprise. And even after it took me by surprise, I texted you, I bet you I'll go reread this and point out, oh, there it is. There it is. Like, and that's always the case with me, but I feel like I'm not alone there.
No, I mean, like, no, we're not trying to point out twists here. We're not trying to suck the fun out of everything. Like that, if you're going to suck the fun out of everything, you should have a straw and just make it easier. Like, that's not what we're doing here. So, but we are though going to the convergence because we know that it's Malcolm. Emma she calls Johnny Rook. She puts all the puzzle pieces together. She's like, oh, the flowers. Oh, from here. Oh, the story. Oh, this is here. When he was here, he said he came to California because he wanted to bring back love. All of these little pieces together. And then like Kieran.
And then he was in Cornwall. Like then every little thing was there. And even they were like, fucking duh. It's like what they basically came out to be. They were like me.
And then in comes Drew in a panic, like, here I am. He told me to come up here. And everyone's like, where's Tavvy? Where is Tavvy? She's like, I left him with Malcolm.
Yeah, they were like, who's the he? What are you talking? Like, what are you talking about? They were that's when, yeah.
In your heart just drops. It's like the littlest baby. Like, oh my gosh, Tavvy. But then we get everybody gets suited up after this. There's a note that comes in, and a big giant magical electromagnetic pulse comes and gives a big blackout to everything that's around there. That's fun. So we have a nice blackout, and Kieran pokes his head in there. We get Kieran. So Kieran's all up in there, and then they head off to the convergence. But Mark asks for a rune, which is very special. Very special. Mark asked Julian to put a rune on him because this whole time he's refused runes. He's like screamed at Steely, and we learned that the Unseelie court members burned runes into him to mock him. So that sucks. So it was very like meaningful for Julian and Mark, and they had like a very nice bonding moment. We love that. Like very much. And then Kieran says to Julian, like, again, this is the second time, like, you have a ruthless heart. And I like that Kieran, as like a fae, like princeling, is saying that to Julian. Like, you can recognize that, like, you have a ruthless heart. Like, did you think Diana was in on it?
No. I thought she was, well, I didn't think she was as in on it as she was. I thought that there was something sketchy, that she was always kind of evading questions and dismissing people, like, that has no concern of you, or just very flighty. She acted like it was just that didn't align with somebody who is supposed to be this strong matriarch of an institute. That didn't carry that's not the perception that I get when it comes to like matriarchs of a Shadowhunter Academy from a Shadowhunter Institute, because look who we've had in the past.
Right. It's good. It's all very good. It's all very good. This whole sequence at the convergence, here's the thing I like about Cassie Clare. Even when you don't think it happens, right? Like, lots of things happen here. Malcolm does his villain thing and explains everything. He explains the
villain
whole
monologue.
plot. Yeah, we get Malcolm's like whole villain monologue. Like, And then because God bless Emma, right? She's like, what the fuck about Edgar Allan Poe though? Fill this in. She's like, oh, well, Poe learned the truth before I did. That everybody lied to me. She's like, what the fuck? It's all really good.
Yeah, and she was like, none of us were involved.
Like,
we aren't the people.
To do
but
with
it's
us.
The whole sins of the father concept.
Yeah. Just, oh my gosh. And then Emma's like, just keep on talking. Like, I ran in this corridor with the hands of glory, 13 dead hands of murderers, like on a fucking chandelier. I kept thinking like that thing must be heavy as fuck.
Yeah, and the reason that you have the hands is because it's based on like which hand did the killing.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was Sterling who when they killed him, they were like, I didn't get a chance to find out which hand it was, so we took both.
Yep, gotta get them both. Oh my gosh. I do like this whole kind of situation where Emma's like, she's got the hands are in the water, and she's like kind of fighting Malcolm, and she stabs him with Cortana, but it hits the black volume of the dead, and it was a very like haha kind of moment. He was like, this is like the hand of God, like save me, but then like Emma runs him the fuck through, and he gets sucked out to sea. But like again, and this is like the epilogue. Even though it doesn't happen, it does happen because Annabelle fucking wakes up at the end of this.
Yeah.
So like the thing happened no matter what.
Yeah. So she still wakes up, but they haven't bled Blackthorn. Like they haven't killed Blackthorn. So how is she waking up if the whole prophecy didn't get fulfilled?
This is next book situations.
Oh.
This is next book situations. This is explained. So this is the day, right? Everybody fights well. Everybody's good. Everybody's coming out of the convergence. Like that is done. It sinks back into the hill, right? Like we're all good there. We get back to the Institute. I was almost going to say we get back home because I love the LA Institute. I think it's beautiful. I would love to like, if it were real, I'd like to visit, right? It just seems gorgeous.
Well, I want to know, and maybe we can like do research after this. You know how that we could basically just type in New York Shadowhunters, and you could give yourself like a mini tour of like, go to Brooklyn, go to here, go there. I want to know if there's, and then you can go to the New York Institute. They have like which church it actually is. Is there something for that for LA? I'd have to assume so. But like, I know that when they talked about like, when they were like, oh, we're at like the corner of Hollywood and Vine, I was like, okay, you're on Hollywood. Like I knew when they were at like the El Capitan, like I knew exactly when they were like, oh, we're going up to the Hollywood Hills. I knew everything. That was really fun. But I like, those are also just general areas, not specific landmarks, except Hollywood and Vine.
I know that the convergence has been confirmed as like a location. There's like a place where the convergence is, like a hill kind of situation. I'm not sure about the Institute, but like you can picture, right? Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, it's so special. Okay. When we get back to the Institute, we have 4 people that are waiting for us there. We have Magnus, we have Clary, we have Jace, and we have, surprise, Robert Lightwood. Hello, Robert. And then we get a little info dumping of Isabel is marrying Simon, and we love that.
And they just came from their engagement party. They're like, we just dipped out. It was easier just to have like the 4 of us as opposed to like everybody.
Everybody. I really like this situation. Robert has grown on me as a character. I find that through some of Alec's stories, but I really do kind of feel for Robert and his situation. And I feel for Julian because Julian's monologue here, like the one in his head though, is like, I know how to work Robert. Like I know how to work Robert. He doesn't know me, but like in letters and stuff, we are colleagues. I know exactly how he's going to approach this situation.
Because he's the one who's been doing it all. Because he worked with his uncle to be like, just let me in and I'll do it. You could just sign off on it. I will run this institute, right?
Crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay. I think for this situation, this whole thing, it is just easier to do the vampire stuff. Julian is a mastermind. Julian set all of this up. He figured that when they came back from the convergence that shit would go down. So he prepped everybody. He saved the dregs of all of Arthur's medicine that he got from Malcolm and saved it all and poured it into a wine glass and put the wine glass in the sanctuary and called Ansel to come get Arthur and get drunk in the sanctuary. And then he stashed the pizza boxes in the front door. Like, he set all of that up so that he had like some story going on that he could point to. And that is just so fucking crazy to me.
I think it's just so, like, it's smart. It's thinking ahead. You're thinking, like, I need this, like, backup plan so that way if I say it and they're like, oh, yeah, really?
Yeah, and you point to it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It was just... I love that Julian finally just like lays it all out. And this is when Emma was like, I'm a little bit scared of you here. And that's when Magnus is just like nicely
I think it's
done.
so hot. I'm not even scared. Like you were, we were talking before and I was like, he's so good. And I was like, he's a good character. And you were like,
not good.
And you said, don't confuse him being a good character with him being good. And I really like his character. It works for me. I don't know what this is about me, but like, let me join you. Like, I would be like, what other things do you have planned? I want in.
Yeah. From this, I would be like, Julian, you need to tell me everything from now on. One of the criticisms of this book is that Julian confesses everything that's happening here and he doesn't get any help. Right? Like, Robert's the fucking Inquisitor. Like, do something about Arthur. Do something to help him, but they don't. But they do let Mark stay there, and they do, like, gloss over, because there is that little loophole.
Well, Mark calls him out on his bullshit, because you said, like, even Robert doesn't know how to act, because he realizes that he's gonna be, like, and he catches him, like, oh, well, blah, 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 with Helen, and this and that, and Julian's been asking. And so then he goes, then he applied it to himself, but, and he goes, oh, so you agree with me? And Robert's like, well, I guess.
Yep. Oh, my gosh. The end of that situation, though, is that nothing changes. Everything is, like, fine. Everything will continue as is. And Mark can stay there. So, like, Mark will be there. And Mark has already made that decision, though, before they went to the convergence. He said, like, out loud, like, I will not leave you. My place is with my family. I will not leave you. So, Mark Blackthorn, my whole heart. Then we get, though, Julian's breakdown. And I do like Julian's breakdown. He's with Emma. He's like, let's fucking run away. They're getting hot and heavy in her room. He's like, let's run away. I can't do it.
That's right, because they were going to get caught again. And she's like, we can't keep doing this, like, on the beach and in the here and there. And we keep getting caught.
Yeah.
And then he was like, she's like, to hide it for, like, 5 more years? Are you kidding? Or like, she was like, because Tavvy's 7. So she's like, do you know how much longer, like, we would have to hide this? And honestly, like, I mean, obviously we know what we know now with the parabatai and, requited love. But before that happened, his siblings would absolutely love the fact that him and Emma are dating. So why would they hide it? Did I miss that?
It is so just deeply illegal.
Because of the parabatai.
Yeah,
thing. That's right.
It is just so deeply, deeply taboo and illegal. Like,
I hate the clave. I've hated them since the beginning.
My God. So I do like that Julian breaks down, though, and he's like, I regret that I did this to you. I regret that I tied you to me like this. I regret, like, all of it. I regret being parabatai. I wouldn't do it again. Like, no.
And even Emma finds, like, when Christina even makes a comment, she was like, she goes, I don't have a parabatai, but if I were, I could, like, it would be you. I would want a parabatai if it was you who was in my corner. And like, Emma, like, even Emma's internal dialogue was like, fuck,
me
same.
too.
Because then this shit wouldn't be happening with Julian.
Yeah. But they were so young. They were so young. They were so young.
There was so much loss.
Then we have the connection of Jem and Tessa, Emma and Kit at Johnny Rook's. Johnny Rook dies. He is torn in half right in front of Kit. We have, Tessa, get up, Christopher Herondale, all of this wonderful stuff. And then we get But then we get more, right? So we get the Shadowhunter.
We get like an extension of like what we had. Yeah.
It's so great because then we get the car and it's like, Christopher's not my name. I'm not a Shadowhunter. My dad said I'm not a Shadowhunter. And Jem is just like, then go open the fucking door, my man.
And he's like, and if I open this door and it doesn't open, that means I could just like, and he's like, that's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah. And then I like the description of like, it flies open, right? Like he barely touches it and it flies open and he stumbles in. And
I imagine him like on the floor and then looking up and he's like, you tried to kill me. And he's like, nothing personal.
It's like, it's just business. Like, it's not personal. It's like ties right there. It's so good, right?
And you could tell he's like in like flight or fight mode because he's like, you say there's 1,000 rooms. I'm going to pick whichever one I want. And if you come in my room, I'm going to fucking kill you. Because he's just like, fair. You just saw your father get ripped apart. Like, this is the only place that he has a safe haven right now. And now he's just been told all within the last basically 20 minutes with all this happening that he's the thing that he was grown up to hate because that's how Rosemary is his mother. Rosemary wanted to hide this whole secret from him.
This whole secret. We're almost at the end of the book. We have like 2 big things left. And the one of them is Jem and Emma's scene on the front of the Institute while Tessa is on the phone. And we get this parabatai stuff. Only the Silent Brothers and the Consul know about this parabatai situation and how the runes, if you're both in love with each other, they warp and change. Power grows, the magic, you become monsters and destroy everybody around you. And then, Tessa's lines. And then we have the portal. And Tessa's on the phone because she's going to the Spiral Labyrinth because there is a sickness that is affecting warlocks that she's going to have to kind of handle.
That's why spoiler, Magnus is apparently sick, I found out.
Then Jem is going to find Malcolm's body. So that's where they are going.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Jem is going to find Malcolm's body. And then to do that, they have to, Magnus opens a portal in the front of the LA Institute in front of Emma and Julian, and Tessa and Jem go. And in that portal, we see, I don't know if you picked this up, Raphael, Magnus, Max, and then Alec as well.
I didn't pick up Raphael, but I did pick up on I didn't pick up on or I did on Alec and Max. Max, yeah, but not Raphael.
Yep, and then we have our end scene. Emma basically dumps Julian, straight up. It's just like, we will not do this. We cannot do this. It is a life of sneaking around. And she says something that really hurt me personally. She was like, I'm not going to wait.
I'm not going to wait.
I'm not going to wait.
And he said, I will wait for you. We can, the whole scene, I wanted, you're rooting for them the whole time and you're still rooting for them. But it's it's so much bigger. And even Tessa says, it's going to kill you. It's so much. What's one of her lines that she says? She's telling it's easier to kill someone's love for you than kill your love for them. So she's like, you can make them hate you, and they probably will, and they'll be hurt. But you're gonna go crazy. Not saying it's easy, but it's going to fuck you up forever.
And then we have Julian. There's no law higher than love, right? A bad law is no law. This is Julian. Emma, you're lying. And he
knows it. He knows it. And she knows he knows it. And she doesn't he knows her that well. And how do you, she's just, that's why she runs to Mark right away.
Yep. And she's the law is hard, but it is the law. And it's so final. Oh my God, and a bad law is no law. The Blackthorn side has not served you well. Oh, it's crazy. And then she goes to Mark, and Mark is very fey, and he's like, yeah, everybody can think it. Let's just do it.
And he's like, can it be somebody else? And she goes, no, it has to be you, because Julian has said time and time again throughout this whole book, if it was Mark, it would kill me, and I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. She's got it. It had to be
It
Mark.
had to be. Oh.
And then Annabelle wakes, and that's the end of the book. And then there's a novella that has to be read before you read the second book, just so you understand everything that's going on. Jess, did you like this book?
I liked it so much. I liked it more than I was expecting. I wasn't sure. I mean, the last time I really read Shadowhunters, I say this, like, it was a Shadowhunter Academy. I read a couple of the novellas in the Ghost of Shadow Market, and then the Infernal Devices. So I am at a good place right now. I wasn't expecting to be at a good place almost a year later, because it's been like pretty torturous emotionally, because even before we started recording, I started spiraling. I sent Laura a voice memo because it was a Will Herondale spiral. So if you follow Shadowhunters, you know what I'm talking about. But I liked it. It's a good introduction. I also love, because it's been so long, and I know, Laura, you had mentioned that it's been a complaint that you've seen in other discussions, that I loved the Easter eggs. I needed it. It was like, maybe it feels like fan service for some people, but it had been so long. I wasn't going through a reread. It was great to have that familiarity of like, what things were, who people were, kind of mini backgrounds. So even although I love the order that we read it in, you are my expert in all things, I will continue to go through your guidance, my sensei. I can see if people started with this part of the Chronicles, if they were like, oh, this is an interesting book, not understanding the context, so obviously like the emotional depth isn't there, but then wanting to be like, oh, well, now I want to go back and read these other characters.
Read these other 20 books.
Yeah. I think I would rather start that way, to be like the Dark Artifices, Mortal Instruments, and then the Infernal Devices, because either way, the Infernal Devices is going to fuck you up. I don't think you should start, even though chronologically that's
don't start there. Yeah.
Don't start there.
No, because you need it to really gut punch you.
Yeah, like it's, what was it? The first time I read Clockwork Angel, the first one, I was crying in the first chapter because I was like, wait.
Well, and we have a connection of that here. We have Emma Cordelia Carstairs, and we know just from basic fan art that Cordelia Carstairs is a main character in The Last Hours.
Yeah,
so,
that's all I know. Mm-hmm. That's all I know. I don't know a lot of other things. Oh, I do know that James's sister is like pen pals with her.
Mm-hmm. Lucy.
And then what's his face? Maybe it's Matthew. Somebody who's like crushing on James's sister is like, well, Cordelia must be a good person if James's sister wants her to be parabatai. So like, I can't remember the names. I'm obviously like very loose because I've only read like 2 novellas with, or a couple of novellas with like Baby Will.
We absolutely love. Who's your favorite character here? Was it Julian?
Yeah, I think Julian. I like, for so many reasons. We talked about like how multi-layered he is. He's dealing with a lot of shit. Like, I really, really like him. I love Emma too, but like Julian and Christina. Like, if I had to do like male, female, like it would probably be Julian and Christina.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. Mine would be Mark, obviously. Mark Blackthorn. He's my everything. Mark, and I would say Christina. I love Christina just so much. Do we get
more of her?
Yes, we get more of Christina.
Have you been waiting for us to get to the Dark Art? Because you love the Blackthorns. You've been saying that for so long, but like we haven't really delved into it yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really talked about the Dark Artifices. It's just like not something, I don't know. By the time they came out, because they're like the new, the newer ones, by the time they came out, like the hate for Cassie Clare has already gotten like very strong. So it's just not something that you wanted to talk about and get attacked for. But like, we're Shadowhunters in Christmas. That's what we do. So, it is what it is here. But this is a good segue, though. So I did go on Reddit, as I do here. I went on Reddit to kind of see what the criticisms were. We mentioned a couple of them. There are, of course, the general Cassie Clare criticisms. Look those up. Please do your own research. But for this book specifically, it was that the plot was predictable, that they didn't like the Annabelle Lee, Edgar Allan Poe stuff. Too many new characters.
But that's part of the fun of Shadowhunters is like having all these characters. Like there's somebody for everybody.
Yeah. Some of them didn't like the representation or diversity. So that was also a problem.
Is it because that like the type of representation?
It was why? Why is this necessary?
Oh, that's like ick. I thought they were saying like, I mean, granted, there should always be diversity. We should always promote like more diversity. There's never enough. But like, that's why I was like, wait, are they mad that it wasn't more diverse? But no, they're mad that it was diverse.
And
what the fuck? Why do people actively think it's okay? Like, even if that's your inner monologue to like hate, like, why would you put that like pen to paper, essentially? Now you have, there's this amazing TikToker, Aunt Karen, like 2.0 or something, and she finds people who are saying shit and drags them and finds their employers and be like, you want to say this publicly? You want to do all this shit? And she does all her little FBI agents, and she's like, there you go, have fun being a nasty, nasty, horrible person.
This book was published in 2016, so this is not like old by any means. It's 2016. So I will tell you that the criticism of why did you need to include this diversity? There's too much diversity. That specifically, there's too much diversity. Later on in the books is a consistent criticism because it builds. We get more.
Right.
So people are like, why did you...
My face right now. Yeah. I'm so confused of anybody's criticism to say, why do we need diversity? Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah. So there's that. The diversity here, I mean, there's a bit. I mean, the Blackthorns are white as can be. Christina's from Mexico. Mark is half Fae. That counts. Yeah, we're in a fantasy world. That counts. And... Kieran is
Ty is on the spectrum, which
I
thought was a beautiful representation. And I'm saying this as somebody who has somebody who is on the spectrum in my family. I thought it was beautiful, and it wasn't like that's who he is as a person. It's just like, and even the family is completely like there's nothing wrong with him. There's just, you do things differently. And I thought that was how it's depicted in this was lovely.
Were you expecting that?
I wasn't sure what to expect, honestly. I knew you had prefaced it saying that there is representation for those who are on the spectrum, but I wasn't sure how it was going to be depicted, and it was integrated. Just I respected it, you know. I'm only speaking for myself. That's obviously my opinion. I don't know how other people might take that, but it was, I liked it for myself.
Yeah, it's there, right? Like it's there. It didn't have to be there. She didn't have to do that,
and you don't see it often.
Yeah, people always got something to say.
Are you ready to go on to book 2 right away?
Yeah. Like, okay, I will be totally like upfront. I have it like ready to go.
I'm waiting to pull up my Audible credit. I was going to go for the library, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do the library. I know I'm going to wind up buying this anyway, so I might as well just do it now.
The second one, I believe, is Lord of Shadows.
And it's narrated by James Marsters.
Yes, it is. And he also does the third one. So when I think of Christina's voice, I think of Lady Midnight, because we have Marina and how she does Christina's voice.
Marina did. I was impressed with
good.
Marina. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, ugh, another actor who thinks they're a narrator. But it was good.
She was good. The way that James does Kieran and Mark is how I hear them in my head. So I'm very excited. These are hefty books. I'm looking at the audiobook, 23 hours, 30 minutes at speed. So, we'll see. Totally into it. I prefer, and I'm on record for this, to just blow through Shadowhunter. So it's all in my head. It's all fresh. It's all there. So that's where I'm at. I love this book. Would I recommend this book? Yes, I would, with like a giant list of like asterisks and like arrows and like maybe you should start here first kind of things. If you like Shadowhunters, you'll like this book. If you hate Shadowhunters, you'll hate this book. I really don't know what else to say.
But I feel like that's consistent with anything surrounding Shadowhunters. If you like it, if you want more of it, you're good. That's kind of why we keep exploring the Chronicles. If not, you just stop, and that's fine too.
That is totally fine. Totally fine. I will read all of them. It's fine.
And reread. How many times have you read this book?
5. I've read this 5. I read this twice this week, back to back. Back to back. I read it twice this week, and then I read it 3 times prior. But I've never actually sat down and like taken notes on it, so that was very helpful for me. Yeah,
it's very much a vibey book, though. Too. I feel like you could just put it on and go for your, hot person walk and do your thing.
Yeah. Really, really enjoyable. They get more complex and like heftier from here, so I am all in. Very excited.
So thanks for joining us this week. And for this episode, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. And we're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks again, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.